Let's shift gears, wrap things up, reverse alphabetical order. I love the zag. Let's get to Group A here. Eintracht Frankfurt 1, Barcelona 3. Main thing for me with this one, to quote the great Omar Little, you come at the king, you best not miss. What a first half, though, from Frankfurt. They're clearly a really good team, and on their best day, I think they can give any team in this tournament a game. Laura Freigang looked world-class in this one, 1,000% ready for this match. She gets a well-earned goal just minutes before halftime. What do you think of Frankfurt, especially with the kind of start that they had?
My game notes are just, Frankfurt isn't scared at all. Frankfurt's taking the fight right at Barcelona. Frankfurt's home crowd sounds great. I was just I could not, and I don't want to pretend like Frankfurt is like some tiny unknown club in the women's game, but it's great to see a team that, arguably you look at the lineup sheets, one team has a clear advantage in terms of world-class players at every single position. And Frankfurt did not care. They were going to play with the ball. They were going to use the counter to their advantage when they could, but they weren't going to be scared to hold it either. Pavelek is just an excellent midfielder. She has good defensive instincts on top of her great passing and shooting ability. She got a goal in their last match. And you nailed it with Freigang. She's a number 9 I would take on virtually any team in the world. Any team would like to have a player like Freigang.
Yeah, I think, you mentioned Barca's world-class players at every position. Yeah. Frankfurt's got great or borderline great players at every position. Absolutely. They're just rock solid. That's just the difference between great player and world-class player. I think what we saw bear out. So 2.5 minutes into the second half, though, great run by Ona Batier. She finds Salma Pariuelo for Barca's equalizer. Just moments before that goal, though, Pariuelo starts her run in front of Sophie Kleinhern, then quickly cuts behind her, little tug on the shoulder, like a little baby tug on the shoulder, and Kleinhern gets totally spun around. She goes flying. Yeah. Pariuelo's left 1-0 in front of the goal. And in those situations, safe to say we like her chances.
Yeah.
So she buries it. Barely a celly from Salma, just ice cold. She knew that this was just the beginning. Barca's second goal, their go-ahead goal, Frankfurt keeper Stina Johannes, maybe a little rattled at this point. So she tries to punch a ball in that was 100% catchable, no one within 3 yards of her. Her punch travels all of 5 yards before being smashed in by Mariona Caldente. It kind of reminds me of what you were saying with Lyon. You just cannot give away these, you can't spill balls in the box. Yeah. Off a corner, right? You might as well just take the ball and throw it into your own net. Barcelona's so deadly. When Barca's locked in, which they clearly were after spending 15 minutes of halftime probably stewing about being down a goal.
Oh, yeah.
When they're locked in, they make you pay for everything. They seize every opportunity. And then 2.5 minutes after Caldente's goal, CGH does her thing, drives the ball into the box, tries to thread a ball through to Bonmati. 2 Frankfurt defenders get a foot on it. Neither can stop it. Ball pinballs its way to Bonmati, who again finds Pariuelo. Easy peasy, 3-1 Barca. The story of this one for me was Frankfurt's kind of clear loss of confidence and focus after Barca's first goal. It's almost as if whatever positive affirmations they came in with, we can hang, we've got the history, we've got world-class talent too, we've got the home pitch advantage. All of that up in flames the moment they see the ball in their own net. To not only hold this Barca team scoreless in the first half, but to actually be up in the match, to go from that to being down 3-1 and the game effectively being over in 16 minutes of second half action. That tells me this was more of a mental breakdown than a tactical or strategic one. Frankfurt currently level on points with Benfica, now head to Portugal to take them on in a match that could give them a stranglehold on the 2 seed. This one's going down Wednesday, December 13th, 3 p.m. Eastern. If somebody can walk away from this one with 3 points, that's massive. So that one's going to be a banger. Very excited about that. But what else did you see in the second half of this one?
I think I noticed it too. And it's not it's not like a indictment on their character or anything like that. It's just that first Pariuelo goal goes in and it's 1-1. And that happened in the 47th or the 48th minute. It's right out of the gate coming out of halftime.
Yep.
And you could just see the slumping of shoulders from Frankfurt where I was like, oh, fuck, that first 45 minutes, we had everything going for us. And now it's all up in smoke. When in reality, it wasn't up in smoke. It was 1-1. You could come back from that. But I will say, they did, even before that goal. That goal is scored almost immediately after halftime. And even before that, Barca had a chance. But, they came right out of halftime. And we're okay, enough of this. Like you said, when they are locked in, they make you pay for everything. It was just full-on attack mode from Jump Street. And I really like that you mentioned it. it was like a 14 to 16 minute stretch where Frankfurt couldn't do anything. And you get 3 goals right there, and it's night after that. But I wonder if you're the Frankfurt coaching staff, if you have to do this, or if you're the players, if you kind of feel like you have to do it, if you tell each other, we're good enough. We know we're good enough skill-wise. Mentally, maybe we had a lapse there, especially at the beginning of the second half. We can start a half better than that. We know we have that in us. This next game against Benfica, this is going to be a get-right game. We're going to keep our heads about us. We're going to attack the goal. We're going to face up against the defenders, and we're going to go play. And so I think they should go to Portugal confident that they can take all 3 points. I think you made a good point about Benfica kind of being a little on the rise. Maybe they're a year away from being a year away, or maybe they're just a year away, wherever they are in their cycle. And so if you're Frankfurt, you go and you say, okay, we're the better team. We can win in Portugal. We handle hostile environments in our league play all the time. I am really, really interested in the Frankfurt Benfica game. I think it's going to fucking be a banger.
Yeah, this one might have find the draw potential, plus 330. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, there he is.
No, I'm excited. No, I'm definitely excited about this one. And I'll mention it again because, I always like to compare sports to, I obviously played a lot of sports growing up. Boxing was one that I was pretty active in. And there is something about mentally being in there and feeling like you're at the same level, and then you get hit really hard. And then you realize I'm not at the same level.
Right.
And I think the combination of that, and, it definitely means something when Pariolo scores 2.5 minutes into the second half and she's just stone face. She's fucking like, I don't know, I think she's 19 years old still, like scoring in a Champions League game. Yeah. And she really could care less. She's just like, like, when's lunch? Like, she just as ho-hum as you can imagine. And that does something to you mentally. You see that on the other side, and you're just like, this is going like the game is a complete 180 if you're on the Frankfurt side. And it takes it's not even metal. It's just you have to like really grab something from deep inside you, and it's got to permeate through the entire club. And when you're facing a team like Barcelona, it's just kind of like so easy to think with the logical front part of your brain and say, okay, we might be in some trouble here. And as soon as you do that, you get what we saw, a weak ass pair, some mistakes on defense. Those goals from Barcelona seemed very easy because these are like very minor, teeny tiny breakdowns that Barcelona is just going to pounce on every single time. And like you said, it was just a 16-minute barrage that was enough to just break the game wide open and essentially bury Frankfurt in this one.
I'm glad you used the term easy because Barcelona got nothing easy in the first half. And I thought that was a big part of what Frankfurt was able to do. They made them earn every yard on the pitch. And then that first one goes in. It's like it was panic time, and you can't have that against Barca. They're going to punish you 99.9% of the time.
It's just a bad mental 15 minutes for Frankfurt. But again, still early. Yep. Massive game against Benfica. And then I think we'll get into what they did against Rosengard here. Benfica won, Rosengard no. Speaking of this Benfica team, they haven't hit their stride as of yet. And we're not sure if that's because we're still a year or two away, or if it's still some lingering effects from what Barcelona did to them in the first matchup and also last season. I finally put my finger on who this Benfica team reminds me of. They feel a lot like those mid to late 2000s U.S. men's national teams. Oh. A lot of chances, a lot of playing long balls forward, tossing a lot of junk against the wall, see what sticks, hoping one squirts in. And in this one, Kika Nazareth, Benfica's Clint Dempsey, gets Benfica's first goal of the group stage in the 52nd on, almost like a nothing of a nothing, but credit to her. Ball falls to her. She smacks it in, and that was enough to kind of get them through. Rosengard in this one, pretty game defensively. Shout out to their keeper, Angel Mukasa, we've talked about. Another solid performance from her. Offensively, though, they've been stuck in the mud a little bit. Just haven't been able to string together an end-to-end attack in either of these two games. Like, they'll put 3 or 4 passes together, and then it'll just break down. Or they'll get close, and then just kind of spill it 1 or 2 passes before they're able to kind of create a real chance.
Yeah, definitely right on. Cosign on Mukasa. Great keeper. Love the activity. Real smart positioning. Pretty much every chance I see her engaged in. I love the comp for Benfica on those U.S. men's national teams. I'm glad you compared Nazareth to Clint Dempsey. I will say, for another pod, I have a take that I think Clint Dempsey is the best American player ever, and I don't think any other American has experienced in an elite league the way Dempsey had. Dempsey had a 17-goal season in the Premier League. Fucking Pulisic, nothing close to that. Donovan, nothing close to that. I digress. We'll talk about that at another time. But in terms of the style of play, they don't quite have the elite skill of the bigger clubs, but they have enough good players to hold their own. Like you said, they play direct. They try to throw some stuff against the wall and see what sticks, but they have a lot of moxie to them. They play defense really hard. But unlike the U.S. men's national team, they operate in a country that has a footballing infrastructure that's going to allow them to grow. So I do wonder, like the next time the World Cup rolls around, we might be seeing their Portuguese national team, which is, filled with players on this Benfica squad. They might be kind of floating around the same range as the Portuguese men's team, where they are kind of consistently hanging around in that like 7th to 15th best country in the world. And Benfica should see the benefits from that, whether it's the Champions League or in their domestic league play. For Rosengard, I think they held their own. They weren't super creative on offense. I think they kind of had a hard time getting anything going, but I think you also have to credit Benfica's kind of defensive mindset for that as well.
Yeah, and I think also, we talked about the end of the Swedish league season, Rosengard looking a little gassed. I think that persisted into this one. One thing I think to look at with regard to this Benfica team and the Portugal international team as well is you're really looking for them to kind of develop physically. Like sometimes you can kind of look at them and they look a little bit like an under 17 team. And then you look at like a team like Frankfurt or a striker like Giacinti in Italy, or just physically, like you're just looking at like different like kind of body types. And I think, Benfica's got a lot of young players, but hate to tell them to hit the weight room, but not the worst advice.
No.
Because I think, this is like group stage Champions League. And I think, imagine seeing them against a team like Brann, where it's like, that's queue up 11 ice baths after that one.
Yeah, 100%. Looking forward to seeing it because I love the Portuguese sensibilities when it comes to playing football and just the nation as a whole and their pedigree. So we'll see a little bit of that kind of defensive style. Everybody hit the weight room. We're shotgunning protein shakes. Let's fucking get in here and start knocking some heads around.
I'm with it. We mentioned Benfica's upcoming match against Frankfurt. Rosengard up next. They host defending champs Barcelona, so things do not get easier for them. Next Wednesday in the early slot, 12:45 p.m. Eastern. That kind of wraps up Group A. Did we miss anything?
I think we hit everything, my good man.
Awesome. I think we did it. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. We'll be back next week with more proper Matchweek 3 previews, so follow and subscribe into the channel on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to partake. ITC_pod on X, platform formerly known as Twitter. And come threads with us at Into the Channel Pod on threads as well. We're getting busy. We cannot wait to watch every match of this glorious tournament with you. We sincerely hope you rock with us all the way to Bilbao. Big thank you to my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel.
Thanks, man. Yeah, everybody hop on Threads. It seems like Threads is like kind of as a burgeoning women's football culture. So I want to see where that goes. I see it on Reddit as well. So we're poking around on Reddit. Into the Channel Pod on Reddit is our username. So we're just trying to find other people who will actually talk about the games and talk about them intelligently, which we are efforting toward too. I'm not going to pretend like I'm always talking about them intelligently, but it's a slow build. I'm Benfica in this way that I'm getting my game up. Just need to hit the weight room a little bit.
I love that. All right, man. I'll catch you next week.
All right, man. Talk to you then.
Okay. See ya.
See ya.